A couple weeks ago, I had this really cool research project for school. We had to log everything that we consumed during the day into an app called Chronometer. I know a lot of people are really into this, but I have never logged my food. Actually, I take that back. A long time ago, I had a client and I asked her to keep a food log. This was before any of the apps, so she had to just keep a food diary. And she asked if I would do it with her so that we could compare. And I said, great idea. So I did log my food way back when, and it was just for about a month. Anyway, some of my clients really like to log in all their food into maybe not the Chronometer app, but another app. And it's a great resource for me, and because then I'm able to look back and see exactly what they consumed. And then we can make some little tweaks if needed. But anyway, I had to log my food and I thought, oh, this is gonna be really fun. I eat so healthy. And I came back very deficient in a certain nutrient. And my guess is you're deficient in this nutrient too. So I didn't just log what I ate and drank, but I also put in any supplements that I take. And I'll link right up here a video that I did not that long ago on the supplements that I take. And there are quite a few, but I have made some changes. So in this video, I'm gonna tell you the one supplement that I am deficient in and that you might be deficient in as well. And then I'm also going to tell you two other things that I have either added or taken away from my supplement routine. And it was all because of this Chronometer app. Welcome to Boom 50 Fitness. My name's Regan, and this is your channel for all things health and fitness in your 50s and beyond. Okay, it's time for that real quick disclaimer. I am not a doctor. I have a degree in exercise physiology, and I am currently in a master's program in health sciences and nutrition. So before you decide to take any new vitamins, minerals, any sort of supplement, check with your doctor first. Now, don't run off to your doctor just yet, just because I said you might be deficient in this, because this is a nutrient that's really hard to detect whether you are low in it or high in it based on blood work. And I will explain more about that in just a few. But what is it? Okay, the nutrient is potassium. I mean, honestly, not to sound cocky, but I was excited to put all my food into Chronometer. You know, I'm a big fan of AG1, and I mean, look at this. Just look at all the micronutrients that are in this alone. I just didn't think I would be deficient in anything. And the couple micronutrients that I want to make sure I keep at normal levels, I supplement with. So needless to say, I was pretty shocked when I saw that I am deficient in anything. So part of the research project involved logging in everything we consumed. And then the next part of the research project was really cool. It was a potassium challenge. And my professor knew that we were going to be doing this before she even looked at our logs, because she was so confident that all of us would be deficient in potassium. And why is that? Well, most adults just don't consume enough potassium, and it is so important, and it's an electrolyte that is in almost every single cell in our body. So the current dietary recommendations for potassium are 3,400 milligrams for males and 2,600 milligrams for females. So listen to this. Those dietary guidelines were changed in 2019. Previous to 2019, the recommended amount of potassium for adults, male and female, was 4,700 milligrams. But listen to this, it was not lowered because they realized you just don't need 4,700. It was lowered because of the highest median intake of potassium in adults. What? And most doctors and dietitians realize that the new numbers are just too low for functional optimal health. So in our assignment, what we had to do is bring our potassium levels up to 4,700. Now I'm going to share with you what mine was initially before I made a few little minor tweaks and changes. Mine came in at, I believe it was 1861. So I am below the recommendation, the dietary recommendation of potassium currently, which, like I just said, many doctors and dietitians believe that's far too low. And so for this project, we had to bring our potassium levels up to the old standard, which should currently be our standard, 4,700 milligrams of potassium a day. So let's start by going over what potassium is, why it's so important, and what the signs and symptoms are if you are deficient. Because like I mentioned, it's not something that is easily detectable through blood work. So we don't hear a whole lot about potassium, but I feel like it should be at the top of the list for minerals that are really, really important. It's so important because it's necessary for all the normal functioning of your cells. It regulates your heartbeat, it ensures proper function of muscles and nerves, and it's vital for synthesizing protein and metabolizing carbohydrates. This is such an important mineral for your nervous system as well as your muscular system. So potassium works really well with sodium and magnesium, and you don't have to worry about your sodium levels if your potassium levels are twice as high. Okay, so remember 4,700 of potassium, and then half of that would be sodium. And so much research has proven that most people are deficient in potassium. So let's go over some of the symptoms. So the medical term for low potassium is hypokalemia. Hypokalemia actually means low potassium in your blood. Okay, but listen to this. I told you I would explain this. 98% of your potassium is located within the cell, but only 2% is located in the blood. That is why a blood test for potassium is not going to show you what you really need to see. So that blood test you get done for potassium is only measuring 2% of the potassium that's in your body. So the best way to find out is through an intercellular lab test, but it's really hard to find a doctor who will actually do a test like this. So I would just assume that you're low in potassium and look for these symptoms. The first sign I'm going to mention is just muscle weakness, or if you're going up the stairs and it just seems like more effort than it should be, or you're at the gym and you just don't feel like you have enough gas in the tank to get through your workout. These can all be signs of a potassium deficiency. So one thing you can do to offset this, and I actually do this every day, and it's one of the reasons I was a little surprised I was low in potassium, is I take an electrolyte supplement every single day. It's called Element, LMNT, and it's got potassium, sodium, magnesium, chloride, and it's great. I will link it down below so you can check it out. But drinking an electrolyte drink during your workouts can really help with your energy, especially if you are low in potassium, which most of us are. A lack of potassium can also affect your lungs. So if you feel like you're short of breath more often than you think you should be, that could be due to a potassium deficiency. Okay, the next symptom I will mention is constipation. And the other one I'm going to mention, which you probably already know about, is lack of potassium can cause cramping. So you've probably heard that before. If you get cramps in the middle of the night, they used to just say, well, eat a banana. And more on bananas in a little bit. Okay, next is twitching. Do you ever get like a little muscle twitch that seems to last for a long period of time, or it goes away and then comes back, and that can be a sign of low potassium. Not always. I mean, that can be a sign of low calcium or low magnesium as well. But just be aware if you notice parts of your body just having little twitches. Heart arrhythmia can be another sign of low potassium. So just be aware if you feel those little flutters in your heart that come on every now and then, could be a sign of low potassium. Maybe not, but it could be. Hypertension, as in high blood pressure, that can be another sign of low potassium. Another symptom, which is kind of close to the first one I mentioned, is just overall fatigue. Insomnia is another symptom. Another symptom would be a high pulse rate. Yeah, so potassium helps keep your pulse rate lower. So you don't need to have these symptoms to have low potassium, but these are some of the signs that you are low in potassium. And I actually, so far, everything I've mentioned, I don't have any of that, at least not on a regular basis. Yes, I've gotten a cramp in my calf in the middle of the night. I mean, that hasn't happened since I was pregnant, but, or yeah, there are days I go to the gym and I'm just out of gas from the very beginning. Sure, I experience insomnia every now and then, but again, it's not something that's happening all the time. But this next one that I'm going to mention, this doesn't happen all the time, but it's happened to me and it's kind of weird. Okay, with all my research, I found out there is a medical term for this. It's called pulsatile tinnitus. Okay, so this is what it is. Have you ever laid down and you can actually feel your pulse, or maybe you can hear your pulse? That's pulsatile tinnitus. And it's actually not necessarily a higher pulse rate. It's just that you can hear or you can feel that pulse rate. I know, if you've never experienced this, it might seem kind of weird. And it's kind of weird when it happens. All right, so we went over all those symptoms, and let's talk about how do you become deficient in the first place? All right, one cause, and you probably know this, is you're not consuming foods that are high in potassium. Or if you eat processed foods or fast foods, foods that are really high in sodium, that can really throw off your levels of potassium. And another common cause is that you're just losing too many fluids, either through vomiting or diarrhea or diuretics. All right, we always hear about the negative side effects of stress. Well, here's another one. High stress can cause lower potassium levels. So here's a fun fact about potassium. The more potassium you have, the better insulin will work for you. All right, this is the fun part. What are the foods that can help you bring up your potassium? Basically, what foods are high in potassium? The number one answer that most people say is bananas. And yes, bananas have a decent amount of potassium, but they also have a whole lot of sugar. So is that the first thing you want to reach for if you have low potassium? Maybe not, but I'm not gonna do any more hate on bananas because I feel like bananas get enough hate on them as it is. I eat probably 3 bananas a week, something like that. So a medium-sized banana has about 300 milligrams. So that seems like a lot, but remember, we're trying to hit 4,700 milligrams. Potatoes are another food that has a decent amount of potassium. But again, potatoes have a lot of starch. If you want to skip the starch, you can eat a potato raw, but who wants to do that? All right, so let's talk about some foods that have a lot of potassium. Beet leaves. So they have a lot of potassium. You can take them off, you can throw them in your smoothie, you can throw them in your salad, and that's at the top of the list for foods high in potassium. Leafy greens, cruciferous vegetables, those all have lots of potassium. And I have a big salad every single day for lunch, pretty much. And I'm just adding a few more leafy greens. The other thing that I have changed is avocados have a whole lot of potassium. I used to put half an avocado in my salad every day. Now I use a whole avocado in my salad every day. I feel like I'm going to the store for just avocados all the time. Squash and lima beans, they have a good amount of potassium. I'm not adding them into my diet, don't love them, but if you're trying to figure out what things to add into your diet, maybe squash and lima beans are gonna work for you. Salmon's another good source of potassium. This is another thing that has a lot of sugar in it, not the salmon, but dried fruits like apricots, those are high in potassium. I mentioned bananas earlier, but other fruits that have a decent amount of potassium are apples and oranges. And of course, I just mentioned apricots. Another little change that I made to bump up my potassium, besides more leafy greens, a whole avocado, I always add tomatoes and cucumbers to my salad. I'm just adding a little bit more because tomatoes and cucumbers are high in potassium. And I mentioned regular potatoes, but also sweet potatoes and carrots are also high in potassium. Okay, now you know I will not recommend supplements to you without you checking with your doctor. So please don't go ahead and buy this and then just start taking it if you don't know if you have low potassium or not. One way you can find out, or a very good indicator, is downloading that Cronometer app and entering in everything that you consume in a day and being very, very detail oriented. But this is by the company Thorne, which you know I love, and this is the potassium citrate. So I am taking this now. I'm just taking one in the morning and one at night. I will keep you posted on if I notice a difference. And that is it for potassium today. Oh, I think I mentioned this in the beginning of the video, and I don't want to forget to do it. If I didn't mention it, I'm mentioning it now. But after entering everything into Cronometer, I realized I was off the chart in one vitamin and then just slightly deficient in something else that is important. So let's start with what I was off the chart in, and I'll look for my numbers on Cronometer and I'll stick them right up here if I can find exactly what it was, but I couldn't believe it. You know I love my lipospheric vitamin C. My vitamin C levels were, like I said, off the chart because I was taking this on top of my AG1 and I was getting so much vitamin C with all the healthy foods that I eat. So I have taken this out because I don't even need it. And then the other thing, I was only off by, I believe, 1 gram. And so I bought a supplement, and that is fiber. So the recommended daily allowance is 25 grams of fiber, and I usually recommend 25 to 35 grams of fiber because a lot of people just kind of like potassium, they don't really get close to that number. And so I bought this, another Thorne product. I'm only doing half a scoop of this, which I think a full scoop is 9 grams, but I was only off by 1 gram. I probably don't even need this, but I would rather be on the upper end of fiber, closer to 35 than 25. And FYI, if you do buy this, I'm fine with you buying this without getting a doctor's approval because it's fiber, it's good for you. So I'm adding my half a scoop to my afternoon protein drink. And let me tell you, I did do 1 whole scoop in water the first time. Ugh, it was horrible. Like, it tasted horrible. And I choked it down. And now I've switched to just that half a scoop and I'm adding it in to my protein shake. And then you just don't even taste it. All I taste is the chocolate protein. Cheers. I guess it makes it a little thicker, but it's good. All right, so added more potassium, a little bit more fiber, took away the vitamin C packet that I was taking, and I think my levels of all my micronutrients is gonna be really, really good. So here's my suggestion. Download that Cronometer app and just be really clear and concise about everything you put into your body for a few days straight, and then check your numbers. The app is really easy to use and it's great. I mean, you will be able to see all those micronutrients that are so, so important. And if you want to learn more about macronutrients and micronutrients, this is the book that I had to read for the class that I'm just finishing up now, and it gets a little scientific, but if you're into that stuff, you can get this on Amazon. Check it out. I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, smash that subscribe button if you're not subscribed already, ring that notification bell so you're the first to know when my next video drops. Thank you so much for joining me. My name's Regan. This is Boom 50 Fitness, your new BFF. I'll see you next time I see you.